Repeat this for 3 days. Your life will begin to change. Napoleon Hill. I need you to listen to this with absolute, undivided attention. Because what I am about to tell you may contradict everything you have ever believed about prosperity, faith, and destiny. I have discovered, and science is beginning to prove, that the Word of God was correct all along. It wasn't the economy. It wasn't luck. It wasn't external opportunities. It was faith. It was what you affirm. It was what you believe. It was what you repeat to yourself when no one is watching. And I will reveal a truth that many will try to deny. The human mind is governed by what the heart declares with faith, exactly as it is written in the scriptures. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23, verse 7. I spent decades teaching this principle. But God taught it first. And now, science is finally catching up to what the Bible proclaimed from the very beginning. If you feel that your financial, emotional, or spiritual life is trapped in a never-ending cycle, know that it is not your fault. It is the programming of your mind. And today, I am going to show you precisely how to rewire it. Prepare yourself. What you are about to hear may make you uneasy, it may challenge you, but it holds the power to transform your life forever. I state this plainly, that which you quietly repeat to yourself, morning and night, is the cement that bonds the bricks of your destiny. You can call it faith, inner self-talk, mental programming, I call it law. When I first began to understand this, I realized it wasn't just beautiful rhetoric, it was a practical mechanism that converts intention into reality. Ask yourself right now, how many times have you spoken, even if only for a second, that never works out for me? How many times, when you were weary, did you say something like, I am not capable, or I have no luck? And then, as a natural consequence, your life simply confirmed that judgment. It is not coincidence. It is effect. The scriptures did not fail when they stated that death and life are in the power of the tongue. What you declare with conviction, especially when nourished by faith, imprints itself upon your mind as a path to follow. Today, they term this neuroplasticity. The brain changes according to the stimulus it receives. Start your day affirming scarcity, and your brain will search, among all available evidence, for everything that supports that narrative. Affirm abundance and faith, and your brain will begin to notice opportunities where before there were only obstacles. This shift is not magic, it is biological, spiritual, and practical all at once. You are not just praying and waiting for a miracle, you are actively aligning your mind, your behavior, and consequently, your results. I know what many are thinking, but I tried to think positively, and nothing happened. This objection is real and common. The error lies in the superficiality of the effort. Affirmation without intention and without corresponding action is like planting a seed in barren ground and expecting a tree. The faith that moves mountains operates on 3 fronts: word, what you say; feeling, what you believe in your heart; and action, what you do next. You must speak, believe, and act. Ask yourself, do you repeat affirmations but continue to feed habits that directly contradict those very affirmations? If you declare you want prosperity yet spend your days complaining, without planning or taking action, do not expect your life to change merely based on your words. Let me be practical. Tomorrow, when you wake up, do this: close your eyes for 60 seconds and say slowly, with conviction, in the name of Jesus, my mind is directed toward provision and wisdom. I sow intention, and I reap opportunity. Make this declaration not as a slogan, but as a covenant with your soul. Then, write down 3 actions, simple and entirely possible, that you will take that day to honor that declaration. Call a client, review a budget, study for 30 minutes on a skill that can increase your income. A word without action is wind, a word with action is a foundation. When I speak with people living in financial anxiety, I notice certain universal fears: fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, fear of failure, and fear of judgment. Ask yourself, which of these fears do you carry in your heart when you consider launching a business, asking for a raise, or investing in yourself? Asking rhetorical questions is a powerful tool because it compels the listener to look inward. Do you feel that restlessness now? This same anxiety holds back thousands of ordinary people: the indebted employee, the single mother working double shifts, the young person who wishes to start a venture but dreads the humiliation of failing. And it is to you, precisely you, that I speak. I want you to see concrete, everyday examples. Imagine a teacher who is deep in debt. Every night he repeats, "There is no way out." In the morning, he gets up and avoids making bold decisions. Result, he maintains a cycle of bare survival. Now imagine a nurse who, after a period of prayer, decides to affirm daily, "I am called to prosper, I have the gifts to open doors." She begins to study healthcare administration for half an hour each day, sends out resumes, and openly discusses her goals with colleagues. In 6 months, the opportunity to coordinate a team arises. In 1 year, she is in a leadership position with a much better salary. The Word did not do everything alone, but it transformed her outlook, guided her choices, and catalyzed actions that had previously seemed impossible. You might say to me, "But I am not that disciplined." Perfect, that is the reality for most. Then start small. Discipline develops like a muscle. If you can commit to 5 minutes of affirmation and 1 small concrete act every single day, that is already the beginning. Do not underestimate the power of minimum consistency. I have seen common men and women rise to prominence using this principle. Their perception of control grows, their initiative expands, and, finally, the fruit appears. Now, a word on faith and reason in harmony. Some people believe, others doubt the Bible. I say, you do not need to abandon reason to practice faith. Biblically guided faith corresponds to the consistent practice that science describes. Psychologists who study resilience describe how internal beliefs and narratives shape behavior and mental health. Well-applied faith acts as a cognitive framework that directs attention, and where your attention goes, your behavior follows. Do you want a practical exercise? Record in your journal 3 small victories you achieved this week, no matter how minor they are. Reading this daily reinforces your narrative of competence and alters the perception of inability. Let me share something that happened to me, and I won't begin with "once upon a time," because it is as real as the air we breathe. There was a winter when I was rejected, penniless, and totally discredited. I sat on a sidewalk in Washington, feeling the full weight of failure. I remember the cold wind on my face, my frozen hands, and a shame that made me want to vanish. In that moment, a sentence came not as a thought, but as a command: affirm what is true more than what appears to be. I do not know where it came from, I only know that I stood up and said, in a low voice, like someone planting a seed in a rock, "I will be an instrument, my mind will be guided, I will help many to triumph." That night, with no apparent external change, something internal shifted, my language transformed. I began to write down daily goals, to speak with people, to ask for help. Months later, the results came: opportunities for publication, lectures, doors that opened for the book you may now know. The emotion of that day on the sidewalk still visits me, a mixture of pain and profound gratitude. If I had not spoken that word of faith, I might never have taken the next step. Some will call this romanticizing. Others, skepticism. That is fine. But I challenge you to try it for yourself for 7 consecutive days. Declare an affirmation based on the word in the morning, write a concrete action for that day, and in the evening, record a small piece of evidence of progress. I am not asking for instant miracles, I am asking for honest practice. At the end of the 7 days, evaluate: did your anxiety lessen? Did you notice a new idea? A conversation you would not have had before? In many cases, the simple change in language opens doors that doubt had locked shut. Do not underestimate the intersection between faith and action. Do not allow fear to silence your inner voice. Remember, everything you affirm with faith has the power to become real, because your soul, your behavior, and your mind align themselves with what you utter. Make your word an altar where you offer intention, courage, and work. Start small, persist, and watch the world bend, not by magic, but by divine order and by a mind trained to seek and create opportunities. Underscore 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 underscore. Here is topic 2, narrated entirely in the first person as Napoleon Hill, deep, emotional, and engaging, strictly following all the criteria, no subheadings, flowing like a continuous video narration. I want you to understand something that few realize until it is too late. No person fails for lack of ability. They fail because they let their thoughts run wild, like an untamed horse dragging the rider into the abyss. The power that controls your life is not in the events around you, it is in your internal dialogue, in the silent conversation you have with yourself as you walk down the street, as you work, as you try to sleep, as you confront fears you confess to no one. And most people, without realizing it, live under the command of a mind that repeats, "It won't work, that's too big for me, I don't deserve it, my life never gets better, I'm unlucky." The question is, how many of those secret phrases have directed your life until now? Many people are surprised when I say that the mind is a faithful servant. It does not argue orders, it simply executes them. If you say, "I can't," it closes doors. If you say, "It's difficult," it avoids the path. If you say, "It's impossible," it paralyzes your body. But if you declare with faith, "I can, I learn, God is with me," your mind begins to build pathways where before there were only walls. And science confirms this. Recent research shows that repeated thoughts create physical tracks in the brain, literally neural pathways. That is to say, the more you think something, the easier it becomes to think it again, and the harder it becomes to believe the opposite. What the Bible calls renewing the mind, science calls reorganizing circuits. Different names, same eternal truth. And I know that perhaps now you are thinking, but what if I try and fail? This fear corrodes millions of people every day. I have heard so many variations of it that I know them by heart: fear of losing money, fear of being ridiculed, fear of not being sufficient, fear of trying and discovering you have no worth at all. But let me ask you something, has this fear been protecting you or imprisoning you? Has it given you security or taken away opportunities? How many times did you stop yourself from trying something you truly wanted just because you heard that weak voice inside you saying, "What if it goes wrong?" And more importantly, how many blessings might you be enjoying now if you had dared to ignore that voice for just 5 minutes? To illustrate this, I want you to think of a common, realistic situation that accompanies millions of workers. Imagine a man who has worked for years at the same company, but believes that asking for a raise is audacious. He repeats to himself, "They won't accept. I'm not that good. I'm not the type who deserves more." In the end, he does not ask. Months pass, years pass, and he remains exactly where he was, not because of a lack of qualities, but because of a self-sabotaging inner dialogue. Now see the opposite. Imagine a woman in the same situation, but who decides to change her inner narrative. In prayer, she declares, "Lord, give me courage and grace. I am capable because you empower me." She repeats this for days. The fear is still there, but the faith keeps growing within her. One day she gathers the courage and asks. Perhaps she doesn't succeed on the first attempt, but she gains respect, visibility, and opens doors that had been locked for years. What made the difference? It wasn't the resume. It was the mind. I want to bring to memory a historical example that I personally witnessed and that profoundly impacted my understanding of this silent force that dwells within each of us. During my research, I came into contact with the story of a deeply Christian man named George Washington Carver, one of the most brilliant scientists of his era. Carver began every day by praying, "God, show me the secrets of what you have created." His inner dialogue did not say, "I am limited," but rather, "I am guided by God." The result? He revolutionized agriculture, discovered hundreds of uses for the peanut, saved the economy of the southern United States, and became a symbol of humble genius. Take note, he did not attribute his success to himself, but to the daily habit of surrendering his mind to God. His life is living proof that when the inner dialogue is aligned with faith, the impossible becomes daily practice. And now, allow me to recount something I lived through that still stays with me today as a reminder of how much the mind can be our greatest ally or our worst enemy. There was a period, before I began my great research into success, when I suffered through entire nights of negative thoughts. I would lie down, and my own brain seemed to mock me, "You won't succeed. You are a fool dreaming too big. Who do you think you are?" It is strange to admit, but I was afraid of being a nobody, afraid of dying without having made any difference in the world. One night, exhausted, I went out for a walk in the streets, trying to escape from myself. I stopped in front of an old building, leaned against the cold wall, and felt defeated. It was then that my tears finally broke through. There, alone, in the silence of the early morning, I made a short prayer, almost a whisper, "Lord, if my mind is my prison, then set me free." After that, I decided that every time a destructive thought arose, I would answer it with an opposing affirmation. It was a slow, painful, but transformative process. The sadness of that moment still lives in my memory, but it converted itself into the seed of the journey that led me here. If you do not know where to start, begin like this. Every time you hear in your mind, "I cannot," respond immediately, even in a low voice, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." When you hear, "It will go wrong," respond, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" When you hear, "I am not enough," respond, "I am growing, and God is with me." This is not delusion, it is training. Just as a musician practices notes until they become a reflex, you train thoughts until they become nature. I want you to do something different in the coming days. Instead of fighting your negative thoughts, replace them. Take a sheet of paper and write 3 faith phrases based on the word, simple, direct, specific. Declare these phrases morning, noon, and night, for 7 days. It is a small commitment, but a powerful one. You will notice that your mind will begin to look for evidence to justify these affirmations, and when that happens, the opportunities that previously seemed invisible will start to appear, as if they were always there, and they were, but your mind would not allow you to see them. Your inner dialogue is the root of your external life. If you change the root, you change the fruit. And when your mind aligns with the Word of God, your life aligns with abundance. There is no exception to this law. And if you allow this truth to take shape within you, you will discover that what you have always sought, courage, clarity, direction, prosperity, was only waiting for your mind to open space to receive it. Underscore 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 underscore. Here is topic 3, narrated entirely in the first person as Napoleon Hill, deep, emotional, and extensive, following all the criteria, no subheadings, flowing as if it were the natural continuation of your video narration. There is one principle that took me years to fully grasp, and when I finally did, I realized it had been present in the Bible since the beginning, stated so simply that many ignore it: you will never experience true growth while you continue to flee from discomfort. The truth is, discomfort is God's laboratory. It is the ground where He shapes character, expands capabilities, and reveals hidden potential. There is no progress without friction. There is no strength without resistance. And yet, people spend their entire lives trying to avoid any situation that would make them sweat, tremble, hesitate, or confront inner frailties. Observe human behavior, and you will notice a pattern. Most people run from any task that seems too difficult, too risky, or too uncomfortable. Fleeing discomfort has become almost instinctive. How many times have you turned down an opportunity because it scared you? How many times have you hidden behind the excuse, "It's not the right time"? How many doors have you failed to open because you were afraid of what you would find behind them? The question I always pose is, how long will you allow fear to dictate the size of your life? I can state with conviction, my own life began to change the day I understood that everything I desired was on the other side of discomfort. And science backs this up. Studies show that people who expose themselves to small daily challenges have a significant increase in emotional resilience and a greater sense of control over their own lives. This means facing discomfort not only improves results, It improves who you are. The Bible calls it the testing of your faith, which produces perseverance. Science calls it positive stress, which strengthens the brain. Different names, the same spiritual and biological law at work. I want to lead you to reflect on something simple. The discomfort you avoid today is exactly the obstacle God would allow for you to grow tomorrow. Think of commonplace situations: the young man who avoids starting a new course because he thinks it's hard, the salesperson who avoids calling clients for fear of rejection, the professional who fears speaking in front of a team, the mother who dreams of entrepreneurship but fears failing and harming the family. These are universal fears. And yet, all these fears are doors in disguise. If you had faced just one of them last week, where would you be now? I recall a story that many overlook but which profoundly marked the transformation of a Christian man who lived in my time, William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army. He was not wealthy, he was not influential, he was not trained to lead such a massive work. But he had the courage to face discomforts that others avoided. He preached on violent streets, worked with people rejected by society, faced criticism and persecution. While many sought spiritual comfort, he sought purpose, and purpose, almost always, comes wrapped in discomfort. The result? He saved thousands of lives, fed multitudes, and inspired generations. The discomfort he embraced became his platform. His story is living proof that giving up comfort is often the only way to fulfill God's calling. Now allow me to open a chapter of my own life that I rarely told publicly. There was a time when I needed to interview one of the most respected and feared men of my era, a millionaire industrialist, famous for his rigid stance and aversion to wasting time. I was just a young researcher, without money, without status, and without influence. The night before the possible interview, I was shaking with anxiety. Fear told me, "He will laugh at your boldness, you are not prepared, you are nobody in this world." I nearly gave up. I remember the cold sweat, the trembling hands, the feeling that my chest was about to explode. I spent hours pacing between the bed and the window, trying to find the courage to face the next day. And then, around 3 o'clock in the morning, I stopped, looked up at the dark ceiling, and said, "God, if I run away today, I will run away my entire life. Give me the courage just to take the first step." The prayer did not remove the fear, but it gave me the will to face it. When I entered that man's office, my legs were still trembling, but the conversation I had with him became one of the most important of my career. He taught me principles that changed my vision of success and directly influenced the book that would later become known as Think and Grow Rich. That moment of extreme discomfort became a turning point. The feeling of that day still echoes within me, the mix of fear, nervousness, and, afterward, gratitude, profound gratitude, for not having fled. I want you to imagine now what your life would be like if you made a simple commitment: every day, do something that causes you a slight discomfort. I am not talking about jumping out of airplanes, or risky, reckless decisions. I am talking about small actions: waking up 30 minutes earlier, initiating a conversation you always avoid, saying no when you always say yes, making an important phone call, reviewing your finances, studying something that challenges you, walking when you would prefer to stand still. If you do this consistently, for just 10 days, you will feel an internal transformation that may not have happened for years. Discomfort is an honest teacher. It reveals your weaknesses, exposes your fears, and shows you where you need to grow. But, above all, it brings you closer to the life you want to live. Successful people are not smarter, more talented, or luckier. They have simply learned to endure a little more discomfort than others. And by doing this repeatedly, they pass the limits that hold most people captive. If you truly desire prosperity, do not ask for ease, ask for courage. Do not pray for smooth paths, pray for strength to walk. Do not wish for a life without discomforts, wish for the wisdom to transform them into victory. Because wealth, whether financial, emotional, or spiritual, is not achieved by those who seek the easy way, but by those who confront the narrow paths with faith. And now I ask you a direct question, that only you can answer: what is the discomfort you have been avoiding for too long? Identify it. Name it. And in the coming days, take a small, but real step toward it. If you do this, something will begin to change. not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Because all true growth begins when you decide, finally, to stop running. Underscore 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 underscore. Here is topic 4, narrated entirely in the first person as Napoleon Hill, deeply emotional, engaging, and extensive, strictly following all the criteria, no subheadings, flowing continuously. As a natural part of the video, there is a truth that many spend their entire lives without discovering. No human being achieves fullness alone. The quality of your life, your faith, and your achievements is profoundly shaped by the people you allow into your inner circle. It took me years to grasp this, and when I finally did, I realized it was not merely a social, professional, or psychological principle, it was spiritual. The Bible states that bad company corrupts good character, and I discovered that this is not just morality, it is destiny. You absorb the vision, the fears, the courage, or the mediocrity of those who surround you. And the most frightening part is that this happens silently, without you even noticing. Today, looking back, I see clearly that the greatest ascensions and falls in my life originated with the people I allowed to influence my thinking. It is astonishing how many fear financial poverty, yet few realize the devastating danger of environmental poverty, living surrounded by people who complain, who play the victim, who scoff at faith, who ridicule dreams, who speak like the defeated. This kind of association sabotages the mind. How many times have you shared a sincere plan or desire and received responses like, "That's too hard, nobody achieves that, you're dreaming too big, don't delude yourself"? How many of these phrases, spoken by people you respect, contributed to you diminishing your own potential? Ask yourself, how many projects died because of one negative comment you never forgot? I realized that whenever I drew close to people with a small vision, my own vision began to shrink. It is nearly inevitable, you unconsciously adopt the horizon of those around you. And science confirms this. Research shows that our decisions, emotions, goals, and even levels of ambition adjust to the average of the people we spend the most time with. It is as if the brain tries to fit into the environment to survive, even if that environment keeps you stagnant. This explains why so many remain trapped in lives that do not reflect their gifts. They are surrounded by voices that pull them down. In contrast, when you surround yourself with people who walk with faith, who are not afraid of challenges, who seek growth, who value knowledge, who pursue excellence, something within you awakens. You start to lift your chin, to think bigger, to act with more courage. I saw this countless times on my journey. I saw ordinary men, who worked in factories, achieve extraordinary success simply because they began to associate with people who believed in them. Likewise, I saw brilliant men lose their way because they surrounded themselves with those who mock, doubt, and settle for little. I want to bring to memory a person whose history I witnessed through my research and who impacted me deeply, Booker T. Washington. He was born into slavery, without privileges, without opportunities, without resources. But there was something in his circle that transformed his life. He drew near to people who believed in education, development, faith, and the possibility of advancement, at a time when this seemed impossible for someone of his origin. He absorbed that vision, allowed himself to be molded by the strength and faith of those men and women, and ended up becoming one of the most influential leaders of his era. Not because he was lucky, but because his associations elevated his mental standard. He used to say that to rise, he needed to walk with those who looked up. That phrase has never left my mind. Now allow me to tell you something that happened to me that I never forget. During a certain period of my life, when I was working tirelessly to comprehend the science of success, I became involved with a small group of people who constantly complained about everything. They were intelligent men, but consumed by pessimism. Every conversation was about past failures, injustices, limitations, and fears. At first, I believed I could help them with enthusiasm, but little by little, I noticed that I myself was starting to feel more tired, more insecure, more prone to doubting my ideas. I caught myself saying phrases that were never true to my core essence. Maybe it won't work out, maybe I've gone too far, perhaps it's better to give up. One day, after one of those conversations, I walked home alone. The sun was setting, and there was a strange feeling in the air, as if something was wrong inside me. I sat on a bench near a park, took a deep breath, and realized, with sadness, that my thoughts were becoming a reflection of the voices I frequented. I felt a tightening in my chest, a mixture of frustration and grief, as if I had allowed my mind to be contaminated. In that moment, I made a silent prayer: Lord, remove from me what diminishes my faith, and bring close to me what strengthens my calling. I remember the emotion of that instant, I remember the tear that fell unexpectedly. And I remember the decision I made immediately afterward, to change the environment, change the voices, change the circle. That decision saved my mission, perhaps even my emotional and spiritual life. When I began to associate with people who had vision, courage, discipline, and faith, my mind expanded. My ideas flowed with greater clarity. My courage increased. My results changed. This is how, in the interviews I conducted with extraordinary men, I noticed a common pattern: all of them, without exception, chose their circle with extreme care. They knew that a single mediocre friend is enough to destroy an entire destiny, and that a single wise friend can change the course of a life. Now I want you to reflect on your own reality. Who are the people who receive the most of your time, your attention, your conversations? Are they people who bring you closer to God? Who inspire you to be better? Who encourage you to think big, to act with courage, to live with discipline? Or are they people who drain your energy, mock your dreams, minimize your efforts, feed your fears, and keep you small? It is difficult to admit, but many live mediocre lives not because they lack capability, they lack the courage to select who they walk with. And I say this without accusation, I say it with compassion. Because I saw how painful it is to realize that the environment you love might be the very environment that is destroying you. And I invite you to a simple, yet transformative exercise. For the next 7 days, observe with attention the emotional impact each person has on you. After speaking with someone, ask yourself, am I stronger or weaker? More inspired or more tired? More confident or more anxious? Closer to God or further away? This analysis is a faithful mirror. The people who strengthen you should be brought closer. Those who weaken you, need, with kindness and wisdom, to have their access to your intimacy limited. If you do this, you will discover something powerful: wealth, growth, faith, courage, and opportunity spring forth naturally when you walk with people who live by these principles. Iron sharpens iron. Vision awakens vision. Faith feeds faith. And if you choose wisely, you will notice that your life does not change only internally, it changes externally too. Because God always positions the right people in the path of those who have the courage to raise their standards. The question is, are you willing to raise yours? And I want you to take away one single truth from this moment we have shared: everything you seek, strength, peace, direction, prosperity, clarity, begins within you, in the silence of your faith, in the power of your mind, and in the courage to apply these principles.